I'll make the change.
All right, I'm going to bring this meeting to order. We had no closed session, so no announcements out of closed session. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. Everyone is present. Notice to the public. Any member of the public wishing to address the governing board on a topic within the subject matter's jurisdiction of the district but not on the agenda may do so during the public comment period identified in this agenda. By law, subjects not on the agenda cannot be acted upon by the board except to briefly respond, clarify, or refer to staff for review and presentation at a future meeting. The board president will recognize you for public comment on matters on the agenda at the appropriate time. Okay.
Any correspondence?
Correspondence?
No, I have not.
Consent agenda. So, Mr. President, can we, first of all, Joe, am I correct? Item number 10A, we need to change from information discussion action to information discussion only.
Correct, and that would apply to 10C too.
So we're addressing the agenda, right? And 10C as well. So we need to strike.
Okay, so I have a motion to change.
Well, let me finish mine. So that's 10A and 10C, Joe?
Right.
Okay. And then the other motion is to move, item H to be in front of 10A. So
Okay.
10H to front.
Okay, so there's a motion to change 10A and 10C to just information and discussion and move 10H up to the first spot.
In front of 10A, correct.
Yep.
I'll second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any public comments about this? Any board comments? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Public comment. Anybody have any public comment? I'm seeing none. Okay. Director's report. Oh wait, we have no guests and presentations, so we have director's report.
Okay, the first thing on my report is the update on the Sunday hours. And we're good to go starting July the 1st. We'll have one clerk, one page, and one librarian working on Sundays from 1 to 5.
When you advertised it, did you do it as a trial or not trial? I know we were going back and forth last weekend about that.
I was going to bring that up.
Okay.
But yeah, that was one of the things that staff was concerned about, that we had talked about this as being a trial period from July through December. And some staff members expressed concern that we should promote it as a trial period, just in case we decided in December to not have those hours. So I didn't know what everyone thought about that.
I mean, I'm good either way.
That sounds reasonable.
To say it's a trial period?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, in trial period might make people want to come out more because they want to support something that they know is a trial and hopefully keep it going. So yeah, that's good.
Okay, that sounds good.
And will you give us feedback on Sunday use so that we can evaluate how it's going?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I've told people to try and work it into their conversations with the public so people know that it's coming up. But we were waiting to actually put it on the website until after tonight. But it should be up probably tomorrow.
All right.
It should be an easy enough thing to do. The next thing is the budget report. I had our accountant prepare a more simplified budget as well as having the more detailed budget here. So there's a simplified one-page budget that reflects through May 31st, which is 92% of the budget year, since our budget year ends in July, or the end of June.
Okay.
So I think things look pretty good as far as the budget goes. We're ahead on everything.
What was our beginning balance?
Beginning balance.
What was our cash at the beginning of last year? That's the only thing I don't see here.
Oh, yeah, I'm not sure where that shows up. Let's see. It may not show up in the more detailed report too, since it's from May 31st.
Could we add that the next time?
Okay, yeah, I can get that to
I
you.
just want to see, that way we know where we're at. I don't think we're gonna be upside down,
Okay.
right? I mean,
No,
I don't think we would have approved a budget with revenues of 918 on a budget and $1 million unless we had cash coming forward.
Yeah, that's true.
So, we
What,
could see that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
What happens with the $9,000 on revenue from grants if it isn't spent in the next month?
It should be, because there's one large check waiting to be paid for computer updates.
Okay.
So that it should all be spent. We're working on next year's budget. Some of the things I would like to increase the budget in are staff development and training. I'd like to get some more furniture for the library. We're continuing to work on updating the computers and the Wi-Fi system. The way that it's set up now, it's localized and it's not completely the same strength throughout the entire building, but it will be with this new project. We're also looking at possibly renovating the Miller building, which is coming up. And one thing I've asked our children's librarian to look at is whether she wants to hire a new children's assistant, which would be a part-time position. So I think we'll budget for that, whether we actually create that position or not. But the way that it is now, there's nobody in the children's department from 6 to 8 in the evenings, and there's nobody there on Sundays that'll be a children's specialist. So I would hope that a lot of the Sunday traffic will be kids coming in, so I think it would be nice to have that staff too.
Excellent.
So, one other thing too, public facilities fees, is that just revenue that we didn't anticipate?
No, that's what we get from the county and state government. It's as far as like buildings. It comes from we get like a small percentage of like taxes from that.
So that wasn't in the above numbers?
No, it's a separate fund. I think that it's something that, as I understand it, and we're kind of looking into this, it's something that it's money that cannot be spent if it wasn't budgeted for. So it just kind of sits there and rolls over.
Okay.
And it,
So we just have $129,000 sitting in a fund 428 at the county?
yeah,
And is it designed for a specific thing?
not that I'm aware of. The
Okay.
way that it was explained to me was that we have to, if we want to use that money, we need to budget for it next year, and then it's something that can be used.
Okay.
So it's just kind of a fallback fund, as I understand it.
Okay. I mean, the way this looks like is we must have had a cash balance in the beginning. I don't think we're going to be spending all 270,000 in a month, right?
No, we shouldn't be at all.
So we're going to be quite a bit under, correct?
Yeah,
Okay. So if we could kind of show that would be the cash balance that we began with at the beginning of the year.
okay. Yeah,
Where,
I
I don't care where we're at now. That's fine. I don't care.
okay. Yeah, I can get
You
that
could,
some-
at least you could put, maybe in the first column, you could put the cash balance that we began with, which
Okay.
is your budget year, right?
right.
And then maybe put the current balance in the actuals. And we'd at least see that.
Okay.
Thank you.
And
Sure, you're
Steve, is any of this information available on the website, like even the little snapshot?
I don't
Good
think
idea,
so.
too.
I don't think it's on the website.
I think it would be a good idea
Yeah,
to
that's a
put
good
some of
idea.
this information up there. Yeah, at least the
Okay.
snapshot. I mean, I don't know that everybody needs
All the detail.
all the detail or even wants all
They
the
can
detail.
ask for it. We can
Yeah,
give it
they
to
could
them.
ask for it, but I
Sure.
think this would be a good tab to have on there.
Good idea.
Okay, yeah, we can do that.
Are we still under the Switzer contract, or is that now terminated?
We gave him 30 days notice at the beginning of the month, so
So
I
we'll
think
see
he's
that
a-
reflected in the next budget documents, essentially, that we're gonna be saving money.
yeah, we'll be saving quite a bit
Okay.
of money.
All right.
Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome. Next thing is the children's activities. Summer reading club started last week. We had 428 children sign up for it last week, and we had 496 sign up as of this morning. We've done 2 special shows, which were Thursday mornings. So we had 84 people at a magic show last week, and we had 98 this morning for mainly directed at older kids on how to make catapults. So,
Great.
yeah, it was a pretty good turnout. It was more than we expected, really.
When's your next magic show? Or do you have one
I
planned?
don't think there's another magic show. This one,
My daughter loves magic.
oh, yeah, it was pretty cool. It was for little kids.
Oh, okay.
I watched some of it, but it was more for the little ones. The next week is the first preschool dance party. So she's going to just have different variety of music and have the kids dance.
And what time is that?
10 o'clock Thursday.
Cool.
My son will be going, I think.
Might bring my daughter. She's 4. She's in preschool.
Yeah, well, she'd enjoy it, I'm sure.
Cool.
Story times that she's been doing every week. When I say she, it's Adrienne Gash. She's our children's librarian. She had 58 people for the preschool story time last week, 30 for the toddlers, and she was kind of disappointed that we only got 10 for the baby story time, but I think that's an okay figure. We also have an adult summer reading club going on. We had 24 people signed up in the first week, and last year we had a total of 38 people sign up total, so it's a pretty decent start, I'd say. We have a bulletin board in the library where people can fill out a bookmark where they talk about the book that they read, a little review of it, and then Catherine has been posting it so people can look at it and get ideas for other books to read.
Should we potentially do that as virtual bookmarks and maybe do it on the website?
Do it on the website? Yeah, we can probably do that. Okay. Any other questions about children's stuff? No? Okay. Next one's continuing education. We talked about sending Catherine to the American Library Association meeting in Las Vegas. That's happening at the end of this month. One thing I wanted to ask if you guys would be interested in is the Guadalajara Book Fair is coming up in November. It's the biggest Spanish language book fair in this hemisphere. There's one bigger one in Spain, but this is like the big event every year in Guadalajara. The American Library Association, if you sign up before September 1st, they will pay for the hotel, the conference registration fees, and $100 of airfare for the first 150 people to sign up. I looked into what airfare would cost for this. It was $525 as of yesterday for a round trip from here.
So it would be you and me going?
That's right.
I went once about 10 years ago. It was a great experience.
I've heard about that.
Yeah, it's huge. And it would be a good place for her to meet vendors and talk to all the different publishers who publish Spanish language books in the U.S. This one guy that we do business with at Tomo Books, he said that he would help as far as the business end goes, and that he would help ship all the books back to Dixon from Guadalajara. So we'd have a contact down there that could help us with that angle. When I went like 10 years ago, we the library hired a translator for the day. Because my Spanish is good enough to order in restaurants to get on the right bus, but it's not good enough to do business with people. So I really needed somebody with more specialty Spanish than I had. So that's something that might come up too. But it's something I'd like you guys to think about. I think it'd be a good experience for her, and I think it'd be really useful for the library too.
Now,
to
how
see what's
fast
available.
do you have to jump on it? Because you said that they only allow 150.
Yeah, I really don't know how many of those have been
What's the
used up.
net to us? What would be the net cost to us? It sounds like you got some way of deferring some of the cost, correct?
Yeah, if the ALA stuff came through, we would just have to pay for the airfare. So, and if they paid for $100 of it, it'd be roughly $425.
Yeah, that's pretty benign.
Yeah.
I'd say go for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so too.
Okay. I'll look into it and see
Yeah,
if we can get
definitely.
get the hotels and the
Yeah,
conference
that's
fees
right.
taken care of.
Yeah.
If not, I'll get back to you and see if you want.
She can even make it into a presentation or something. That'd be kind of cool to see what
That
it's
would
like.
be even
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, to see what
Even
it's like
better,
down
so
there.
everybody can see. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Adrienne, Catherine, and I all signed up for the California Library Association, so we're all members of that. Oakland is the site of the California Library Association meeting in November, and we're hoping that we can all attend that too.
Okay.
I've been encouraging people to do more training and some tours. Heather and Susan both went to Sacramento to do an all-day workshop on book preservation. So now they know like some of the basic ways to take care of the books, particularly in the archives with the older materials. I had Susan tour the state archives, and she also signed up for a 2-day workshop on more conservation techniques that the American Library Association was sponsoring. So she'll be doing that soon. Catherine's taking a class online on social media and marketing for libraries. Gina, our accountant, trained in Fairfield on the year-end procedures for the budget and how to prepare next year's budget and to run financial reports using the Solano County system. And yesterday, Catherine and Heather and I went to Sacramento and we toured the California State Library. We got a tour of the historic building, which was largely an art and architecture tour, but then we also spent the rest of the time in the new facility where they have a California State History Room, which is a great resource for people doing genealogy. They have birth, death, and marriage records going way back. They've got lots of microfilm of historic newspapers there, lots of city directories. All of us have families going pretty far back in California, so we looked in the city directories and found people. So
Oh, fun.
that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But lots of resources there. It's open to the public. I mean, it'd be a great place to send people for genealogy, like I say, or kids that might have access to doing reports there. On different floors, there's also a law library and a government documents depository, too, that are both open to the public. So it was interesting. I think it was a morning well spent.
Thank you.
And actually, that's all of my director's report.
All right.
So,
Any further questions for the director?
Good evening. I just like to, pardon me, I would just like to support the director's request for more furniture in the library. It seems to me that when I was a little girl, there were more tables in the library than there are now. And it's very difficult to go in at certain times of the day and find any place to sit. So you
Part of that's an
definitely-
ADA issue because you have to have clearance for wheelchair clearance around the existing tables, at least in Carnegie. Some of that was reconfigured in order to comply with ADA requirements. I know that part.
But I understand there were some tables that were just kind of collapsing.
yeah, 2 tables had to be removed, and there's one older table that's still left in the Carnegie.
Right.
I've ordered 5 tables for the building that'll be new.
wonderful.
They're supposed to be shipped the 24th of this month.
That's wonderful news. Thank you.
Sure.
Did you also make sure there's an ADA requirement as to the height of tables too?
Yeah, we
Okay,
looked
good.
into that.
All right.
All right, ongoing business. So H, land boundary issue.
Okay, we've got some handouts at the very back of the packet since it was supposed to be the last item. But I really feel like you guys have more knowledge of this particular subject than I do. I've had it explained to me by a couple of board members, but I know you guys have a better historical grasp of why this happened and perhaps what we can do about it.
Well, I'll talk and y'all can correct me.
Okay.
The prior board and the prior librarian looked at this issue. This issue was raised in conjunction with the prior librarian's efforts to investigate, a bond, the $25 million GO bond that he was originally supporting in order to build a new library. And during the course of his work on the bond, the lawyers that he had basically discovered that there is a discrepancy in boundaries between the school district and the library district. And the boundary discrepancy essentially is an area that's pretty much along Leisure Town Road, both above and below I-80, where it crosses Leisure Town Road. And the way this all occurred was back, I think, in the 1990s, and I may be a little bit off on this, but back in the 1990s, the boundaries were essentially, the school district boundaries were all set literally by roads, not by meets and bounds. And the boundaries were all described from road to road to road. The library district in Vacaville went to court and asked for declaratory relief. They wanted their boundaries set by meets and bounds. And the court set up a hearing. No one came in and said anything. And by default judgment, the court entered an order setting the Vacaville Library's boundaries by meets and bounds. But then what happened was, they didn't realize that they had created this problem where some landowners are in the Vacaville School District, but in the Dixon Library District. And so there is this discrepancy that existed. And since Vacaville originally filed the petition for this relief, they're sort of pretty much stopped from going back to the court to have it corrected. And since everybody else defaulted, they're pretty much stopped from going back and having it corrected. So we're stuck in this situation where we have a boundary discrepancy. If you have two different boards, on our end, part of the concern is that there may be a certain voting population, and there's no determination yet how big it is, where they are paying user fees, taxes essentially, to belong to the Dixon Library District, but they don't vote in the Dixon Library District. They vote because of the school district, they vote in Vacaville. So it's like taxation without representation. The problem can be corrected one of two ways. You can either set up two separate boards, which is one of the governance options that this board had previously considered and probably will be considering still in the future. Or you can address the issue of those voting homeowners and relocate them. Either, more than likely, the solution would be to move them to the Vacaville Library District, because they're probably not going to want to leave the Vacaville School District. You really can't do this house by house. You almost have to do it by what's called tax rate area by tax rate area. And so you're in a situation where you would have to file corrective paperwork in order to correct the boundaries. Now, the real concern, though, is how many tax rate areas are truly involved, and do we really have an issue with some of the tax rate areas that were originally thought to be an issue, because some of them may have no assessed properties in them, they're just open accounts, and some of them may only have commercially assessed properties in them. Well, there are no voting rights that attach to commercially assessed properties. So it's only properties that are residential that have voting rights attached to them. There are 12 or 14 tax rate accounts at issue. You gave out the handout that has the list of them. The first, hang on, let me just count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 12 total?
Yes.
Then it's the first 10. The 006 designation is Vacaville city limits. The 091 designation for the tax rate account is unincorporated. The problem is that this a TRA is just an accounting tool. It does not. It's not. They don't keep the records of these TRAs by the assessor's parcel numbers. They only do it. They do these by meets and bounds in a sense, okay, or by streets by street. And so they can't readily tell us which APN numbers are in each of these TRA accounts. This is just literally an accounting formality here. The real question is, what are the APN numbers involved, the assessor parcel numbers, because that's your tax identification number for each parcel. And then what's the zoning of each of those APNs? If it's a commercial zoning, then it would not be of a concern. If it's a residential zoning, either single-family or multifamily, then it would be of a concern and we would have to address it. I called the assessor's office and spoke with people there. Mr. Rogers. Then I spoke with the appraiser's office in the appraisal division of the assessor's office, and that was a lady named Kelly. And then I spoke with the auditor's office, and that was a lady named Rosalind. And Rosalind is supposed to be trying to figure out which APN numbers are potentially at issue. Once they get those APN numbers, it should be pretty easy to figure out whether they're commercial or residential. And once you figure out whether they're commercial or
Well, if they
residential.
were all commercial, then we could ask to move those into the Dixon School District.
Well, they're already, if they're commercial, we need to do nothing about them. The concern is that according to this printout, which was done a couple of years
I
ago,
can see it.
we would lose
Yeah,
$43,000 in
$43,000
revenue.
Well,
if
we're
we
not going to
transfer
give
those
that up.
accounts.
We talked about that. But the
Okay.
point being is that we wouldn't have this representation problem because the people who are voting have, since it's commercial, would not have any, it's not germane to the school district.
Well, the problem is that the people that live in these disputed areas may not want to be part of the Dixon Unified School District, and Vacaville may not want to give them up.
Okay, from.
They're in the Vacaville School District and the Dixon Library District. And so the question
I
is,
mean, Vacaville might want to give up because we're only getting a portion of that revenue.
Vacaville's getting revenue, they get ADA revenue for all those kids that attend Vacaville schools that live in these disputed areas.
Yeah,
Vacaville,
but if there's none, because it's all commercial.
if
that's
it's all commercial, then we don't have to give it up at all.
That's
We
what I'm
keep
saying.
our own revenue,
Well,
yeah.
that's my point is,
Oh, yeah.
wouldn't the
Okay.
solution then be if it was all commercial?
We don't
ask
have a problem.
Vacaville
We
to
don't
give
even
it
have a
up. We
problem.
own it anyways from a Dixon
Yeah.
Library perspective. Why wouldn't they?
That's right.
Why
You-
wouldn't Vacaville School District then give it up? They
No,
would.
well, if it's commercial, it makes no difference to them either way, that's right. The question becomes, and if it's commercial anyway, we don't have an issue because there's no voting rights attached.
Right, you could
And
do
you
nothing.
can have separate boundaries between the two districts if the only difference is commercial properties. Now, quite a few of these are going to be commercial because it's the along Leisure Town Road.
Yeah.
On the east side, it would be the McDonald's,
Apartments.
the Stop and Go place. But then north of the 80, they're opposite the Kaiser.
I'm sure there's
There are residential neighborhoods that may fall into some of these TRA accounts. Those are going to be the question mark ones. I don't think that the areas south of the 80 and east of Leisure Town are residential. That's my guess. I think those we don't have to worry about, but I am concerned that the areas north of the 80 and east of Leisure Town would have some residential. There's residential neighborhood back in there, and it's very possible that that neighborhood is within these TRAs and is one of the questioned areas. That we would be in a.
Yeah, I'm almost
But
positive.
with residential, chances are they're not some of these accounts where, even if we have to give them up, it may be some of the smaller accounts, because we're talking about, assessments house by house, and not for some of these large commercial properties. So my guess is that the accounts that have these huge assessed values are commercial, and the accounts that are either zeroed out or undeveloped and could either be residential or commercial, and the ones that are small assessments are residential. That'd be my guess, but we don't have the answer yet. So my suggestion would be is that we wait for the answer from the auditors and
Sure.
assessor's office.
So-
If they're undeveloped, have they been designated?
They would be zoned either way, and we would have to deal with it. If they were zoned, if they're zoned residential, we would want to fix that problem.
So we don't have to
Even
come
though
back
there's
again.
no voters yet,
Right.
they would still want to fix that problem.
So some of the area is also under development now, and some of it's also slated for development in the Vacaville general plan. And as we talked about at a board meeting that you weren't at, Joe, and we agreed to
Okay.
table this until you were at the next meeting, was one of the recommendations from county council was that we sit down in a 2x2 with Vacaville and try to hash some of this out. So that, we can figure out what's theirs and what's ours, and just come to an agreement, rather than have them eventually take us to court or have somebody else take us to court, and we can sort of get ahead of all of that. So my recommendation would be that we actually form that tonight and go ahead and make an overture to them and start working on that.
Sure.
That's a good idea.
Should we make the overture before we have the information regarding more specifics?
Like which
The
which action?
APNs.
Or should we have everything lined up and be ready to know, okay, we're talking
Why
about
not?
these specific properties so that we can have a better idea?
Well,
of
I think the
exactly
2
what
by
dollar
2
figures are.
needs to get the information from the auditor and assessor's
Together,
office.
that'd be good.
And then
That's a
proceed
good
to
idea.
Vacaville with that. And I don't think we should give up commercial areas at all.
No,
absolutely.
not
Okay,
at all.
just the residential ones.
Not
and
when
figure
it's
it out.
5% of our revenue.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Okay, what, you want a motion for that?
So a motion for a 2x2 with Catlin and Joe?
And I don't want to serve on it, thanks. I'm not going to serve on it. So I'm trying to cut back for health reasons.
I'm
on all
gonna
this
use
stuff.
presidential school board power to bow away from that. How's that? Please?
Mr. President?
Sure, you go for it. That's it, okay.
This is important, though. It's
No,
really
it is,
important to
it
the
is.
future, so.
Okay, well, we'll discuss who's on the 2x2. When do you think we should start this?
Well, we could have Catlin and Steve do it. That would be okay too.
Oh, that's right. You could do it that way.
Yeah.
Want to do it that way?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
We can always volunteer Steve's time.
No, that's okay. I didn't know whether I could do it or not since I'm not a board member.
I do the
Well,
2x2s.
We're just creating a committee, so we could
Yeah.
create a committee
Still
of
gotta
one
come.
board member and the director, if that's the
Okay,
committee we
that's
want to
okay.
create. Want to do it that way then? That'd be better? I'd move for the creation of a subcommittee consisting of one board member and our library director.
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion, a second. Do we have any public comments about this? Any further board comments?
No.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Mr. President, do you mind if I take my leave?
See you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for your work this morning.
Yep.
Okay, so ongoing business. Well, we have the approval of the amendments to District Board Policy 3000 to 3100.
I do have some comments about that. And also, just to let you all know, a general comment, you don't have 3150 in your packet.
Oh,
And
sorry.
that's item C, unless you did it later, I don't know, did you do it? Oh, yeah, you did, okay, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yeah, that's-
Okay,
that's
you did do it later, I apologize.
Okay.
But you also don't have, you jumped to 3150, but you left out 31, 3110, and 3120?
Oh, well, I was really looking at the wording on longevity pay under C.
Well, I understand that, but I don't know, there are other changes to 3100, 3110, and 3120.
That's
We
true.
weren't taking them in order, we were gonna just, is this one taken out of order on purpose then for some reason?
Yes, it is.
Because staff wanted to have this cleared up for, yeah, as
I
soon as
wanted to get
possible.
it changed. I can explain that when we
Okay,
get to it.
all right, when
unless
we
you
get
want
to it. Okay, that's
start-
fine.
Start with that.
Then, okay, as far as, I do have some comments for the 33,000 to 3,100 ones.
Okay.
Okay, so the first comment is under 3,004, 3,000.4. It says, employment at will may be terminated with or without cause and with or without notice at any time by the employee. And then it says, or the Board of Trustees. By implication, what's that saying is that the library director doesn't have the power to terminate either with or without cause. Really, what it should have done is it should have been expanded to say, employment at will of an employee other than the library director may be terminated with or without cause, with or without notice by the library director, and then it should have said employment at will of the library director with or without cause or with or without notice may be terminated at any time by the Board of Trustees. And the reason why is you should really have the power to, it should be you that conducts termination, you know, and then if there's an appeal, it's for us to appeal it. The only one we should be terminating directly ourselves is your position. So I do think that you might want to talk to Scott, and we would expand this into two parts, where you know, it's termination with or without cause and with or without notice by you of any other library employee, and termination with or without cause or with or without notice by the board of your position, okay?
Okay.
All right, so that's 3,000.4. Then under 3010.5.1, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but I just wondered why the cap on overtime was 120 hours a year. I don't necessarily have a problem with it. That's really only about a little more than 2 hours a week. But I just was wondering why they had picked that particular cap, whether that was something under the labor code. You don't know that?
No, I don't
particular-
know. I mean, really,
I
this
didn't know
was,
that either, and I'm a labor code lawyer, and I don't know why it's 120 hours. But
Yeah, I don't know either.
okay, well, that was the way it read before, because you can see that that part wasn't changed. But I was curious about the 120-hour cap. What if it's not something specific in the labor code? It seems to me that it should be either 100 hours or 104 hours, reflecting essentially 2 hours a week, okay, for a year. So, okay, and then over to page, or item number, hang on. By the way, I think that they did a very good job on this. This was Scott and Vanessa, right?
Right.
They did a really good job on this. Okay, over to 3060.2.2 and .2.3. 3060.2.2. What this section does, and it is perfectly appropriate for us to do it if we want to do it this way, is have jury duty pay assigned to us if we're paying them for the day off, which we are. You know, I mean, jury duty pay is practically nothing. I mean, you know, it's a nominal amount. I don't know why we would insist on the assignment of jury duty pay. It's you know, it's enough that the people serve on the jury as it is, and we want to encourage that service. So it doesn't mean we can't do what we're doing here. This is perfectly appropriate. But my suggestion is that we let the employee have the windfall, keep the jury duty pay, and also get paid for the day, okay? It's up to, you know, that's just discretionary. That would be however the board feels about it. But it's a very nominal amount anyway, and that doesn't include their mileage, which
It's
they
like
get
$10 a day, and that's only
Yeah, it's
maybe,
starting
yeah.
the second day they go to jury duty.
Yeah,
So
it's
not even the
it's a
first.
very nominal amount, so I don't know why we would insist on the assignment of jury duty pay. We have the right to, but we might want to reconsider whether we do that. Okay, I do have quite a few changes to 3070.2. Okay, first of all, under 3070.2.1, I would like that they took out the words for cause. I would like to say an employee is discharged with or without cause. In other words, I don't want this, the word discharged implies that it was a termination for cause. I would like this to specifically read an employee is discharged with or without cause. By striking the for cause, it seems to imply it's with or without cause, but the word discharge is always used in a legal context in terms of with cause. So that should read an employee is discharged with or without cause. Under 370.4, I have a real problem with this because 370.4 is talking about the conditions under which an employee will be rehired, reemployed, should a position open up. And it does not specifically accept out from that an employee who is discharged with cause. In other words, there's nothing in 370.4 or in the following sections, and specifically 370.6 is the same problem, that says if you are discharged for cause, you are no longer eligible for reemployment. And so I'd like to have something in this one that says, if you are discharged for cause, you are no longer eligible for reemployment. And I think it needs to be throughout this, there's a couple of places in this 370 section where that needs to be inserted, okay? And then even though you said in the agenda item that it's 3,000 through 3,100, I think we should only be talking about 3,000 through 3070 at this point, because that's the last section in the 3,000 numbers. And we haven't really addressed any of the 3,100 ones. Hang on, I'm sorry.
Supposed to be running, Joe.
Oh my gosh. Hello?
All right.
Or whatever. It's not my kid, it's not an emergency, so
Okay.
I ain't worried about it. I don't know who the heck it was.
It
Okay,
shows
so,
this oh, sorry. It shows this going up to 3,100 just because it was the first 20 pages of a 70-page document.
no, I
It's
understand,
just an
but,
arbitrary cut.
but I don't, yeah, I think at this point, let's do 3,100 through the end of 3,100 on a different board meeting. This is
Okay.
just the 3,000 section numbers, okay? Not, because 3,100 is, there's 3,120, there's a couple of different sections that belong to the 3,100 category. And so, that's a whole separate, let's just do the 3,000s first, do that 2 meetings in a row, make sure everybody's okay with that, and then move on and do the 3,100 sections separately.
Okay.
That's it for this, that's it for A.
Okay. Yeah,
All
I don't know
right.
if there were any other comments on.
Any other comments?
Here.
Public comments? This is not an action item, so we're just gonna move on.
Or you have a comment?
I haven't had an opportunity to really look at this, but the employees will be made aware if they're terminated either with or without cause of the appeal procedure. Is that a requirement that they are made aware of what the appeal procedure is?
The-
Because that has not been clear in the past.
There's a whole separate, there's separate policy sections that will be dealt with in the future that deals with their rights in the event of termination and appeal. So we're not really, those
At that
sections
point.
haven't come up yet, but they will be addressed, I assume, when we do further revisions to board policies. The whole policy was revised, but we're just doing it in sections because it's too much to deal with at one time. And so we do the 3,000s one meeting, the 3,100s another meeting, 32, we just move from big chunk to big chunk each meeting. So there are sections related to the procedural rights that employees have with respect to termination. And that will
And
be
they have
coming up.
those rights whether it's with or without cause?
Well, they're different rights, and so they will be, I don't want to specifically say what they are yet, because we haven't gotten to that, but
Okay.
they would be spelled out in those policies, what their rights are under certain conditions, okay? Right now, it's just for these particular section numbers.
Okay.
But there are section numbers related to what you're talking about. It's saved for a different meeting. This will be done probably over a 2 or 3 month period.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comments? All right, moving on.
Okay, the next one was to approve an amendment to the wording of the library assistant job description. A little background, for some reason, Patrick established pools for all the other positions. So we have a pool for librarian, we have a pool for pages, we have a pool for clerks. These positions are all advertised on the website, and we accept resumes and cover letters for those, just to have a pool of people we can pull from if there is an opening. So I would like to add the library assistant position to that, since that's the fourth category that we have at the library.
It's a good idea.
So, and I want to make a change to the wording on page 2 of the job description. Under minimum qualifications, it says education, community college graduate, and then 2 years of full-time enrollment. I would like to get rid of the 2 years of full-time enrollment because it prohibits people who are just able to take one class at a time from applying for this type of job.
Do you want to just say the equivalent of
Equivalent,
2
yeah.
years of full-time? Don't you want them to have at least completed,
What
whether
if
they
you-
do it over 5 years or
Yeah,
whatever?
it doesn't really matter how long it takes.
But what if you could get your community college, your AA, without having been a full-time student for 2 years or even having that equivalency?
Like, let's say you could get it in high school through the CAP program.
But you would still have 2 years equivalent.
Not if you got credit. I mean, it's possible that you could potentially get credit with AP courses and some other things
Right.
that might drop. It
Well,
seems
then
like a
why wouldn't
limiting
we just say
factor.
community college graduate? and
I
just
think
take
that's-
the- Okay, we're just taking
Yeah.
the whole thing off
And
then?
just eliminate the
Yeah.
qualifier.
All right, I see.
Okay.
That's fine.
And I would like it to be or, not a community college graduate or at least 3 years of library experience. Because I think that you can do the position without having a college degree. And I think that 3 years of library experience is enough to really prepare somebody for this. And I'd like to get rid of the part where it says at a paraprofessional level in a public or academic library. Because to me, that seems like it's restrictive in one that, I mean, basically you could work like at a special library. It would keep anyone who had that kind of experience from applying. So I think that this would expand the pool of candidates for this position by getting rid of those two things.
Well, but is there, if they have 3 years of, 3 years of paid library experience, do you want to say at any minimum level of position? I mean, what if they were just a student library aide? Don't you want to, at a minimum, require that that service be at the level of assistant or higher?
Well, I mean,
No.
I think paraprofessional usually means anybody who's working below librarian in a library.
Well, I thought you were trying to get rid of that language.
Yeah, I was trying to
Now,
get.
opens it up to that.
Okay,
Yeah, I just think it would open it up to more candidates.
all right.
Does anyone have an issue with these?
Sounds good.
Okay, all right.
All right, this is an action item.
I'll make a motion to approve the changes to the job description.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, do we have any public comments?
I have heard some concern by different members of staff. I don't know if they express them, how they express them to the director or to the board, but can you explain a little bit about how the pool actually works? You advertise at one point and you get people, and then do you just take that list, and then when those people either aren't interested or hired and that list dwindles down, you do this all over again? Is that how it works?
Just at this point, we have established like several files that have potential candidates for each position with their resume and cover letter. So if a position were to open up, we'd have a pool of candidates that we could contact and get someone on board more quickly than if we had to just advertise from scratch. and
Okay,
wait
so there's
for-
no requirement to advertise for a position?
It's continually advertised.
Oh, okay. So people can, at any point, put their name in to be on that,
Cool.
kind
Yeah,
of,
in just a pool.
okay, all right.
But you're
thank-
not restricting applicants to just those in the pool, are you?
No,
Yeah.
No.
You're just saying that gives you a group to contact. Okay.
But other people could
Sounds,
apply as well?
other people can
oh, sure,
apply.
sure.
Okay,
Yeah, if there's an actual opening.
okay. I think that maybe hasn't been clear, so thank you, Board Member DiPaolo, for making sure that's clear.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any other comments and board comments? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, longevity pay.
Okay, well, this is another one where I was asking for a change in wording at the very end of it, under 3150.3.3. after talking with our attorney, he suggested this wording. Effective July 1st, 2014, longevity pay shall be available to all regular employees, full and part-time. Because this section, it's vague. It doesn't say whether it really applies to part-time people at all. And we kind of talked about this in the past, but there are 4 people on staff that would be affected by this. The 2 people that the longevity pay would be retrospective for are the full-timers, but this would clarify that it is available to the part-timers. Guy had asked what the financial repercussions of expanding this would be. It'd be approximately $5,000 for the longevity pay for the 2 full-timers. But as we
Each,
discussed,
correct?
no, total.
Together? Okay.
Total for the 2 of them. And we kind of talked about before that it's not really something that's optional, because it just says that after 5 years and 10 years service, they get these raises. So basically, I'm just asking to add that it be expanded to part-time people starting in July 1st.
The only question I had about this policy change was right at the beginning under 3150.1.1. We've changed where the salary schedules were going to be roughly at a midpoint comparison with the salary schedules of the comparable positions in the comparable group to, we use the word now, competitive. And I don't know if that means, if the word competitive means that we are now saying we need to be nearer to the top in order to be competitive, versus before we were saying we needed to be somewhere in the middle. So did we, by changing that, create an implication that competitive now means we need to be near the top of the comparable group as opposed to in the mid-range of the comparable group? So that's my concern. Now, you know, we tend to be a district where, you know, cost of living is cheaper, at least compared to Napa County anyway. And so, you know, in a sense, competitive we may be able to offer a lower salary if literally our cost of living is so much cheaper and still be competitive. But I'm just wondering why that change had to be made, because the midpoint of the comparable group was a pretty clear target.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me.
And competitive now is a little bit more of an ambiguous target. What really is competitive? Do we need to be near the top, or is being at the midpoint still competitive? But I'm not troubled by approving this if you're looking for it to be done tonight. I just questioned why that was done. So, or not tonight. You wouldn't approve this tonight. You'd approve it at the next board meeting. But if you need to move this along, but between now and the next board meeting, if you could find out, or maybe see what the rationale was for changing it from midpoint to competitive, and does competitive still mean we're at the midpoint, or does it mean we're somewhere else?
Okay.
Is that
So that makes
sloppy
sense.
enough?
Yeah, I really wasn't looking at that segment of it.
Okay. No,
That's
I
really
know.
all
You're looking at the other part,
Yeah,
right?
just at the longevity
Right.
pay.
No,
So if we put that date in there of July 1st, 2014, right, coming up, would the clock start then? Or are we looking back at part-time employees
It
who
starts
have been
then for the part-timers.
Okay.
I had talked it over with the attorney. I thought maybe we could do it retroactively. The concern was that it might imply that anyone who had ever worked part-time for the library could come forward and claim longevity pay if there was such a change. So that was why I was advised to set a point where it would take effect.
For a part-timer, what constitutes continuous service?
Not leaving your employment during that time. We have 2 people that have worked there for more than 5 years. One 5, 1 10 that are part-timers, and they've never gotten any kind of longevity
But
pay.
we have several employees that are, I guess, technically employees, but they haven't worked in the building for a while. Would they?
Oh,
Or people who work a couple days
A year,
a
yeah.
month, or a couple days a year for
That I'm not really sure. I think it says somewhere in the policy, but I'm really not familiar with it enough to give you
Okay.
any
That
definite answer on that.
might be worth looking into.
Okay.
Okay.
Or you could even add a phrase that says part-time employees who've worked a minimum of X hours per year and have been in continuous service. Do it something like that if you want to.
Okay, yeah, if there's not a place that defines what continuous service is.
Okay, so are we moving on this?
No.
We're just information discussion, so we can move on to the next item.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your comment.
Yeah,
We can move on to the next item.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's not an action, I apologize. Okay, proposal to re-roof the Miller Building.
Okay, last time we talked about this and we got the proposal, the date changed on it, which was a concern. I talked with Scott Holbrook and he drew up a sample contract, which I'm ready to talk to the roofer about so we can kind of move things on.
So you were able to just have him update the date and it didn't affect the bid at all, correct?
Right,
Okay.
the bid is still stable.
Okay. I'm good with that.
I'm not sure if we want to approve the contract tonight, because I haven't actually sat down with the roofer, but I sent him a copy, so I don't know if we're ready to proceed as far as getting it signed and approved.
Yeah, I want to get that fixed as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could approve having you enter give you the authority to enter into the contract.
Okay, that sounds good.
Do we have that additional cost for dry rot replacement?
No, that's if they find dry rot, but
You never know
Right.
until you open it up. We can always pray, no dry rot. All right, do I have a motion on this bid?
I'll move to approve.
Got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, do we have any public comments about the roof? Any other board comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Library board meeting schedule.
I've got the board meeting scheduled on second Thursday of each month through the end of the year. And I've talked with Sue Johnston as far as getting the room set up for each of those, and it should be open.
Great.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve our library board meeting schedule.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, do we have any public comments about our second Thursday of each month at 7 p.m.? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Approval of our minutes.
I typed up the last meeting minutes from May, and then the last one where there were no minutes, which was March 20th.
Excellent.
Yeah, and thank you for doing that. That's really helpful.
Oh, you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, pretty detailed.
Yeah.
Well, I went and watched the DVDs
That helps,
and wrote it
doesn't it?
out. Yeah, no, it's
that's
good.
cool.
It gives me some historical background.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Boy, y'all do a lot when I'm not around.
When our
We're
meetings
busy.
end quicker,
Yeah.
you'd be amazed.
I'm gonna abstain from voting on this since I wasn't present at the meeting, so.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve both sets of minutes.
I'll second.
All right, any public comments about our minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
And then one, Joe's abstaining.
Okay. The next one is about the Moreno contract. We talked about this last time, but there was a mistake in the contract that was signed. This second amendment is to rectify that mistake. Actually, watching, I guess it was the meeting from March.
Oh, it's making noise.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Okay.
I don't know what I did.
Guy had pointed out that there was a mistake on the meeting as far as it not jiving with what Patrick had said. Patrick had stated in the meeting that it should be $2,100 a month. The contract itself was made out for $700 a month for a total of $2,100. And even though that was pointed out, Patrick pointed out to the attorney there was never a contract drawn up to reflect the mistake. So that's what this first contract is supposed to do. The second contract, I've talked with Mr. Holbrook, and he has concluded from all the work that Pedro has done, he's gone through all the projects, that it can be considered to be maintenance rather than construction. If it's construction, it has to go out to bid at a certain level, which I think is $18,000. But since it's maintenance, the level for bid is much higher. So we talked it over and decided that rather than do 3-month contracts that have to be renewed every 3 months for $2,100 each, I had him draw up a contract for Pedro for the amount of $10,000 covering the entire next year. That can be amended if we decide there are more projects to be done, but this will keep him on track for the next year as far as all the maintenance that needs to be done. And we do have a list of projects that we're interested in him working on.
And he's very, we spoke about this, but he's very reliable.
He's very reliable. He
Isn't that
helped-
less money for him?
What's that?
Isn't that less money for him?
Well, we can amend the contract at any time. So if the amount goes over $10,000, we can do that.
Okay.
I talked with the attorney about doing it $20,000, but he said, well, we'll just start with the lower sum. If we get close to that $10,000, we can amend it to a higher sum. But last week we had a problem with one of the trees on the property was falling down, and I guess it was because of the extreme heat the week before, but several of the branches had fallen, and the tree itself was leaning on the power lines. So I got Scott to do a quick contract with Pedro for that particular project because it wasn't just him. He required a couple other guys to help him out on it. So
Yeah.
we had to sign a new contract just to cover our bases with those two guys in case they were hurt doing the job. But he was able to do that like almost immediately. So almost every day he comes by and does some small project, and he's very fair about his prices. I think taking down the tree was really a reasonable price, $800 to take down the tree. And like today, he called me and said that he'd found a couple things that he wanted that were cheaper at Home Depot, and should he purchase them from there rather than use the contract at Ace Hardware because they were a third the price at the Home Depot. So I feel like he's very fair about his prices and a very honest person.
Excellent.
Right?
Good help is hard to find.
The contract says that he's supplying all the materials and equipment. So is he supplying, if he's gonna fix concrete, he's supplying the concrete, and if he's retiling, he's supplying the tile?
That's
So this
correct.
contract includes the materials and equipment too, huh? Okay,
It does, yeah.
okey-doke.
All right. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the contract.
We have a motion.
Actually, I'll make a motion to approve both the second amendment to the maintenance and repair services agreement and to approve this maintenance and repair services agreement.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll second.
We have a second. Do we have any public comments?
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, new business.
Okay, Well, we're going to talk about the future of the Miller Building. Catlin and John both came by to look at the Miller Building and see what kind of shape it's in. I don't know if Joe or Andrew have had a chance to ever stop by and see the place.
Oh, yeah, no, I've been in it.
You've been in it?
I have
Yeah,
no idea.
maybe sometime, Andrew, you could come by and I'll show you. It's part of the old post office that was adjacent to the library. And we're talking about what to do with it, whether we should use it for perhaps office space or meeting rooms or something. But at this point, part of the building is in real disrepair. There were possible plans to tear down the building at one point, so it was never really maintained. So a lot of the ceiling tiles came down. There's lots of stuff that's come off the ceilings onto the floor. But we had a report done by an architect who confirmed that the building is salvageable, so we can do something with it.
But just to be clear, the report itself, which is this PRNP Architects report from August of 2013, does not itself state that the building is salvageable. He did that at the meeting. We asked him specifically, when he stood here and testified, we said, okay, now that we've paid you $5,000, can we save this building? Should we be working on that? And he said yes.
Okay.
So it was, but the report is pointing out all of the problems with the building: electrical, plumbing, foundation, water damage. The two biggest problems, I think, are the foundation, because you only have like 10 inches of clearance and you need 18. You don't have it shear walled or anchored, and they never really fully inspected the foundation. That's a huge issue. And then all of the water damage has never been fully assessed. Plumbing and electrical, you know. What he was saying essentially was the shell of the building, the frame and the bones of the building were in good shape. And then we talked with Byron Chapman, the ADA person, and he had explained, and we can have him come and testify at a future meeting so it's on the record, that if the second floor is just used for storage and offices, and the first floor has an ADA approved office on it for any potentially disabled employees to be able to offer them, you know, a reasonable accommodation for their disability, then you would not need to make the second floor, you would not need ADA approval for the second floor. You would just make sure that the first floor was ADA approved. And that being the case, it would save you tremendous money, because otherwise you'd have to put an elevator in and redo the second floor completely. So my suggestion would be that you potentially go get a contractor to look at maybe what it would cost and to renovate the building, and keeping in mind that the second floor would only be for storage and offices only, and not really public access.
Right. Well, one other thing that was a concern by looking at that report was that there was no assessment as to whether there was any hazardous materials or asbestos in the building too.
That's a good point.
So I think that would be the first thing we might want to have somebody come and look at and make sure that the building wasn't indeed a hazard to anyone entering it.
Well, do we want to, is this something, now that we've approved the roofing contract, is that something maybe we'd want to have done before the roofing contract? Because if the building is filled with asbestos, for example, or that it's going to cost us more to remove it than it's worth, do we really then want to spend the money on the building?
No, that's a good point.
So is that an issue? I mean, I hate to hold up re-roofing and have it rain more. I mean, we're not in rainy season now, but maybe we should get somebody in to look at least at the asbestos issue. And the other thing to note too is that this report was done in August of 13. He's not going to stand by it now because he put a 6-month time limit on his report. Okay, and we've obviously had a lot more damage in the building anyway since that time.
Well, suppose there is asbestos and the report says there is. I mean, what's the step? You want to just tear down the building?
I think it would be to determine how much it would cost to clean it up versus, you know, I mean, if it's a prohibitive cost to clean it up, let's assume that,
Okay, what I'm saying,
Yeah.
suppose it's deemed too expensive to fix. What would you do with the building? Just tear it down or leave it there for the time being? Because if you leave it there for the time being, you're going to need the roof. Otherwise, you have an unsafe building that could cave in.
right,
And that asbestos cleanup can be really expensive. I mean,
either way, whether
right,
you do
so-
demolition or just repair,
Repair
it's
it, right.
expensive either way,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm not sure that the roof isn't something we want to do anyway,
Yeah.
no matter what happens next.
So you wanna just, I mean, you know, you're probably right in the sense that no matter what the asbestos cleanup cost is, we're probably stuck with it either way.
And we're not going to tear it down tomorrow, you know, or,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it's going to be there. And we just won't be able to use it like we're not using it now.
All right, okay. And we're talking 14,000 for the roof anyway, so, all right.
Is there a need or desire for additional office space?
Yes, I think so. It's pretty cramped office space.
Yeah,
where
have
we
you
are.
been in his office in the back there? Oh, you've been in there, right?
It's cozy.
It's sort of a cubby. Yeah.
It's stylish, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
Is it,
colors.
is it convenient to be in the Miller building?
Well, it's one thing that we had sort of talked about was whether it was feasible to connect the buildings in some way or another and what that might cost.
We would be able to, if we moved all the offices, we'd be able to take the current office space and essentially make that all public space, which I think it'd be nice to be able to expand some of the departments that you have over there. Adult services, for example, to me is pretty cramped. And it'd really be nice to have a much bigger computer facility and some of the other things, some of the other departments over there. So if it could be done for a reasonable amount of money, picking up all that square footage over at Miller and adding it to the library is a great way to economically expand the library.
Yeah, since it's something we own anyways.
Yep, you already own it all.
Yeah.
Okay, so any other comments on this? Any public comments?
I think this is something that at least certain members of the public feel very strongly about, and certain staff at the library feel strongly about. I just point out to you that the building across the street, which is now the restored Veterans Hall,
Very nice.
was beautiful, and there was a definite consideration of destroying that building, but private parties stepped in and fortunately saved the building, and so I think it's very important. And as I pointed out and caused quite a rumpus at one time, when the Carnegie was an issue and whether it was going to be torn down, the City of Dixon general plan does state, I know you're not bound by it, but the City of Dixon general plan does state that there should be, you know, as much historic restoration as possible. So I'd just like to point that out. And you are very correct that regardless of what you do with it, you're going to, if it has asbestos, there's an issue whether you restore it or you tear it down. And I'm not sure which is the greater issue. But again, there was a lot of concern about what would happen with the building across the street, and thankfully the Fannings stepped up and saved that building, and I think showed the town, or at least those members of the town who thought that we should just wipe out and bulldoze our downtown, that that isn't necessary, and we can make something very nice out of what we have.
Well, part of the reason why we even did the architectural report that we did back in August of 2013 was to assess whether this building was savable. And at the time, that was the architect's opinion. Now, he did not give us any cost estimates at that time, and that has to be considered because we don't know exactly what it will cost to renovate it. But he did feel like the bones of the building were good, And his opinion expressed on the record here was that he thought this building was still savable at that time. And that was the key, was we wanted to know whether it was a building we could put money into and restore.
Another option, and I don't know, if the library determines that it's not a cost that they're willing to undertake, what about the possibility of selling that particular corner and letting someone, local people similar to maybe the Fannings, who would be willing to take on that cost, save that structure?
That's always an option. In fact, it's not a bad option.
Thank you.
One of the things on the agenda is Miller Building and other library properties. I'd kind of like to open that up for discussion too. There's a vacant lot behind the library, and next to that vacant lot, there's another piece of property that we own that has a house on it too. And I'm not sure exactly what to do with those. I know at one point there was talk about turning it into a community garden. I've had people suggest that maybe we could actually put a library parking lot there, since there's only street parking for the library at this point.
Street parking very rarely fills up so much that
Yeah, I agree.
we'd want to spend the money for a parking lot.
Plus, it's a parking lot. It's not
Yeah.
nice looking.
I don't know why we wouldn't just hold those against, future value and investment. I think they only become more valuable as time goes by, and considering what we paid for them, we may have to wait a few years before we even, get back what we paid if we
What's
tried to
the
sell them.
condition of that house?
I've only looked at it from the outside. I've never been inside. I understand that the Friends of the Library was storing books inside of it at one point, but those have now been moved into the Miller Building. So it must not be in totally uninhabitable shape. So I'm not really sure.
I like the idea of a community garden. It's kind of neat.
Yeah.
But just something for people to think about, that we do have those two properties that the library does own. And maybe the best thing is just to hang on to it and keep them cleaned up.
Yep. All right. Any other comments? Any further public comments? All right.
Okay, the last thing is about background checks for volunteers. Adrian, our Children's and Youth Services librarian, wants to do a series of Lego and gaming nights for the teens, especially with, and I don't know if this is just something I heard. I don't know if there's any accuracy to this, but I had heard that the teen center might be having some financial issues as far as staying open. So, I mean, especially with that, I would like to offer the library as a place for teens to come in the evenings. But it would require us having adult volunteers to help besides just the staff. And so we'd have to do background checks on people, I think, before we actually had people working with the teens.
That's what the teen center does. They make you have a background check, and they run like a live scan or something like that.
Fingerprinting,
Like that, just to make sure that you're not a convicted felon or some sort of, yeah.
Yeah, I applied to the State Department of Justice, and they're the ones who are in charge of the live scan fingerprinting, which people can do down at the UPS store.
Yeah, and there's another place, Angelman's, that does it here in town too.
Oh, do they? Okay. But it's through the Department of Justice. The background checks are free for the state. They would cost us $15 per person for the FBI level, which covers the rest of the country, which I would think you'd have to do. I don't think it really makes sense to just do California. But as far as the application process, this resolution, that's the last thing in the packet, would need to be approved by the library board, and then we can go ahead with the background checks.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's like, it's not a choice. We gotta get that. All right, so
Since it's a resolution, we need to do
a roll call.
roll call. Yeah.
Okay, do I have a motion first?
I'll move.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
And do we have any public comment about background checks? Okay. All right, resolution. Andrew,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Catlin,
Aye.
and I as well.
Okay.
All right. Any board comments, Joe? No? Okay. All right, meeting adjourned.